Welcome back to the Drive Formula podcast, where we take trust, communication, and action to accelerate your team from 0 to 60. It's an exciting episode today because we have finished the reading of the book, all 11 chapters, and today we're going to take a deep dive into the final chapter and then just give our kind of final overall thoughts of the book, Driving Engagement. So if you don't have a copy of the book yet, or you haven't listened to the other episodes, please subscribe, go back and listen to them. Purchase a copy of the book online, wherever books are sold. It's a great way to be able to listen to the podcast and then go back and kind of mark it up, make notes, highlight the sections that you like, write down your thoughts. Or if you're just not a book type of person, purchase it for somebody else. Purchase it for your boss or the person in your life who you believe needs the principles that we talk about here in Driving Engagement and the Drive Formula. So today, I think we should just drive right into it.
Yep, absolutely.
So the chapter 11 is called Driving to Success, and really kind of encapsulates everything that we've talked about in the book so far. So Eric, you want to kind of get us going here?
Yeah, so I've been talking to a lot of employees lately. Employees are the ones that actually are on the ground. They're doing the work. And they, as we talk to them about the drive formula, they say our leaders need this more than ever. One person that I was talking about said our leaders a few months ago, they came up and they put all these great words on the wall, empower, and all these great things, statements that said it's like we really want to build the culture. And the employees are super excited because that was one of their problems. They actually had a survey conducted and it didn't come back good on the leaders. And so the leaders, did all this stuff to really have a lot of lip service, and then they had no action behind it. Zero action. So I talked to the employees after, and I'm like, so empowering means that you actually get more power in your area, that you can direct your area. You should be able to direct your area more because you are the person that works there. You want it to run efficiently and effectively. Did you feel like you got that power? Absolutely not. Wow. So they put it all over the wall. They did all these things, but yet didn't give you anything. And they're like, no.
Didn't really mean it. All lip service. In the chapter, we talk about, going back to the car, turning the key is trust. When you turn the key to your car, you trust it's going to turn on, right? And your car trusts that you are going to drive it properly.
And fuel it. And
do all the maintenance. And do all the other things. And treat it properly. Like one of the things it mentions is you wouldn't take your little Honda Civic, put a hitch on the back, and try to pull your boat. I mean, I've seen people try it.
I've seen people do it.
But it doesn't work out very well. Your Civic is not going to last very long if you're pulling a boat, right? You have to treat it according to what type of car it is. And we talk about that a lot in this book, is what type of car are you driving as your personal vehicle, your personal career vehicle, and then what type of car is the company as a whole. Companies have different cultures and they're just built differently. Every company is built based on the CEO and the mission statement and just how they operate. And you can compare those to different types of car. So you have to have trust that you are actually the leader that you claim you are, and the leader that you want to be, and you can't just give lip service to it. And the second is shifting the car into gear. Once you turn it on, you have to shift it into gear. Whether it's a manual transmission or an automatic, doesn't matter. You have to shift, and that we equate to communication.
So communication, is key. Your car communicates with you all the time through a set of gauges. Those are, part of it. You actually communicate with other drivers through your indicators on your car, your turn signals, your stoplights, your brake lights, the same thing, but your headlights. You tell them that you're coming. You have all sorts of indicators through your car that it communicates with you, with others. All these things. Do your leaders communicate with you, and vice versa as employees? Do you communicate with your leaders, and do you feel comfortable in doing so?
Right. And the key to communication, right? We hear about communication all the time. Like every program talks about communication, and yet people as a whole, a good, very accurate general statement would be that we are horrible at communicating.
Yeah.
Right? So how is it we spend so much time talking about communication, yet we basically suck at it? Right?
Just because we leave a word out, honestly. I have a funny story that I don't mean it to be inappropriate or anything, but we were on a Boy Scout camp, and the leaders had to go drop off a car at the bottom of a river that we were running on, at where we were going to pull out on the river. And so the leaders were back in the car, and all of a sudden this person in the back, his exact quote is, "How old is your crack?" to the driver. Well, I knew what he's saying because there's a nice crack in the windshield. But that's how he termed the question. How old is your crack? And the driver looks at me. I wanted to see what he said, so I let it go along. Well, I guess I'm about 35, you know. So what was he terming to? And I was like, I think he's meaning your windshield. Oh, that's been there for years. But that's all he said. And so what was that listener supposed to think about? I mean, if... It just made me laugh because I'm just like, you could have just said, how old's the crack in your windshield?
Right.
You know, and it just totally would have worked out.
We speak based on the thoughts in our head, and people respond based on the thoughts in their head, and they're not the same.
So, I mean, so what are you telling people about, you know, things that could be inappropriate, that things that just don't get communicated well? I mean, what's wrong with taking a couple extra seconds and explaining something right, or even sending an email to break it down? I mean, we are humans and we are not perfect. Your leaders are not perfect. The employees are not perfect. We are human beings. Allow us to be and allow us to have mistakes, but give us a little bit of patience and room as we do make mistakes so that we can bounce back.
And that brings us to the key to communication, which I don't hear in any other area, is humility.
Yeah.
You have to have the humility to recognize that in order for you to understand and be understood, you have to break it down. You have to be willing to listen, to ask questions, and be willing to be wrong.
Yeah.
And be okay with that.
We're human.
Right. And that really is the key to communication, is humility. Whether at work, in a relationship, without humility, it just turns into an argument.
Yeah.
With humility, it turns into a discussion that can strengthen your relationship. And
have a good outcome.
Right. That
positive outcome.
Humility can change everything when it comes to communication. Second, so you've turned the key, you've shifted into gear. The next thing you need to do is press the gas. And that's what we call action. And your example before was perfect. They did all of this work of shifting into gear, putting signs up, and communicating that they were wanting to change and empower, and then they took no action.
Well, they put it in reverse. I mean, honestly, they had this forward driving momentum because they took that action, but did they power the car forward to the destination that they were really after? In my mind, they actually put it in reverse because they just lied to their company and to their employees.
Sounds like they dropped it into reverse before stopping, too. And
all sorts of damage.
Killed the transmission. But, so, and it's, action is about not only doing, but as the person expecting the action, recognizing the action that's taking place and having gratitude for the little things. Sometimes you want your boss to make all of these big changes, but they can't. Like the fact that they just can't do all that. Maybe it's just too expensive, or they have a boss above them who's saying no, or it just actually doesn't work with the strategic plan, or maybe you're asking for something that negatively impacts everyone else on the team, and you're not the only person at the job site. So be grateful for what action they can take, even if it's just them taking your idea or your suggestion to the management team and saying, hey, what do you guys think about this? That's at least them trying to do something and implementing, taking action on your idea. But they should then come back and explain to you, hey, I did this, I tried, we talked about it, we can't do what you want, but we can do A, B, and C instead.
Yeah, and come with at least a compromise.
Right.
Negotiation, that's all part of it.
And that's action. Instead of just being like, no, we can't do that.
No.
Right.
And instant response back saying no, that we can't do that. I mean, I've dealt with somebody in the past that I'd ask them to do something, and it would be a simple thing, and they'd say, they'd start negotiating with me. I'm like, no, this is what I actually need. And it wasn't that big of a deal. Very, very simple, but that was just their personality, is they always negotiated to their terms and wouldn't adapt well to the others. So you as a person, as an employee, learn to adapt to what the business can also take care of you and do, and be happy with it and be grateful that you had something, because there's a lot of people that won't negotiate, they won't do anything, and they're immediately closed off.
Right. I'm involved in a play right now, and the main character, there's a love interest, and they're kind of always fighting each other. And he says he wants this traditional marriage, this old-fashioned wedding. She says she wants glitz and glamour and diamonds and all this stuff. And so there's a song. And then at the end he said, okay, fine, I hear you, let's compromise. She said, okay, great, what's the compromise? And he says, we'll do it my way.
That's no compromise.
Right, but how many leaders do that?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for your input. Yeah, we're just going to do it my way.
Yeah, let's just dismiss your thought.
And maybe ultimately your suggestions weren't good ones.
Yeah.
But that's not listening. That's not compromising. Because as a business leader, your ultimate goal is retaining employees, right? And what the drive formula is saying, if you make your employees engaged and happy, then retention will follow.
Yep, it's a byproduct of it.
Right? So instead of focusing on the retention, focus on the ingredients that will cause the retention. So our arc has, from going from engagement to retention, requires, that's the happiness is part of that. You're happy, you're content with your job.
Positive psychology.
Right. You're engaged. Once you become engaged and happy at work, you're going to want to stay there. So this is all about what you can do as employees and leaders to help your employees become engaged, which will in turn make them happier, which will in turn keep them working.
And be productive and effective. I mean, it's all about the communication in an organization, and that's exactly how a car works. I mean, imagine how much communication is constantly going on, constantly in a car, to be able to have it drive the way that it does, and it communicates with you. An organization should be the same exact way, but it's not. And that's what we're trying to help people to understand, is like, let's teach you how to communicate better and show expectations and, identify roles and responsibilities so everybody knows where the organization lies.
One of the things that drives me nuts is turning on the radio and on a Friday and the DJ's TGIF. Oh, it's Friday. Aren't we so glad it's the end of the work week? Like, we spend 5 days a week at work, 2 days off. Yet the entire 5 days, all we want is to get to the 2 days off. Like, that's depressing. For 40 years, you're spending, I can't do the math, 5/7 of your life wishing for the 2.
Yeah.
Like, and I've been there. I've been there on where a job was so bad that Sunday night I couldn't sleep and would become physically ill because I had to go to work. So I understand that, but that's not okay.
Nope. So I'm doing this coaching certification in happiness training, and they did a study, or Disneyland did a study, that a person can have the greatest day, but if something happens towards the end of the day, it trumps it all, and that person does not have a good day. So that's why they implemented fireworks at the end of the day. They want you to leave in awe, because honestly, Disneyland, they say it's the happiest place on earth. I don't know. I hate sitting in lines. I hate, I'm a people watcher, and I sometimes watch people not treating their kids well or this or that. I have a good time there. Don't get me wrong. But they proved at the end of the day, if they do something monumental, then that's going to make you want to come back. What if you did that at work? As a leader, as a manager, you went into your employees every day at work. Hey, I saw so-and-so, you did this excellent today. This is why you're in this realm. I truly appreciate that. If a manager or a CEO would just go around and just do those small, simple things and communicate appreciation to them, how would that change the work environment? And would that make you want to come in the next day and say, you know what, I got recognized. I actually got recognized. And that would be awesome. Yeah. I'd love to see in the comments if anybody has ever had that.
That would be interesting. Like, how many people have had the clock watcher manager, right? The guy who stands by the door and says, oh, you're 1 minute late today. What would it be like if that guy one day at 4:45 walked around the office and said, hey, guys, take off early today?
Yeah. See ya.
That would blow their minds.
Yeah.
And I've had bosses that weren't clock watchers really, but I've had bosses on special occasions say, hey, you guys worked really hard today. Take off. Go home. And that was like, even though it didn't happen all the time, that was huge.
Yep. So there is good employers out there, good managers. Don't get me wrong. I talked to a person the other day that she actually hated Friday because she just felt like that she was getting into the groove. Well, it turned out she was on a salary position and she was putting 50 hours a week in. Her company wanted her only to do 8 hours, 5 days a week for 40 hours. So they actually went to her and said, you know what, you're taking Fridays off from now on, and you're only allowed to work the 410s Monday through Thursday. It devastated her at first because she's like, I just got in my groove. I don't have hobbies at home. And, I just look forward to work every week. And she's like, it was the best thing for me because now I have another day that I actually am finding hobbies and I'm doing this. Kudos to that manager that just went in and was bold because at first that person did not like it.
And that is unusual. Usually managers will take advantage of the people that work too hard instead of looking at them and realizing you need to have a life outside of this job.
Yeah.
That's super unique to see that because...
So there is some leaders out there that do care, few and far between.
Right. And I think that's also a good example of employees' responsibility as well, right? You need to do your job and you need to do your job well, but you also need to stand up for yourself, that you have a life, that you have a family, that you have friends, that you have hobbies, and your life isn't just your work. And you have to be able to, you have to stand up for yourself.
Yep.
Right? I mean, I had a boss once who, me and this other lady were hired at the same time, and he came to me and he said, she's working late every night. You're not a team player because you're leaving on time. What's your problem? You need to be more like her. And I said, well, is there a problem with my work? Well, no. Am I late in turning things in? No. And like, is there any issues with my product or how I'm working with the team? No. It just looks bad because you're not putting in the hours. And I said, I have a family. I have kids and I have a wife. So if I'm doing my job and I'm getting it done the way it needs to be done to your expectations by quitting time, then I'm going to go home. He did not like that. But I stuck to it because I'm going to be with my wife, and I am with her long after I left him as my manager.
Yeah.
I stayed married a lot longer than I had to work for him, thank heavens.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just a lot of different situations, but that's where leaders need to look at all the different situations and not generalize. We are all individuals, and we have to be treated as individuals. There's all sorts of personality tests that you can go out and you can do, and you can say, this person has this personality test. I got to treat him that way. I was like, it's kind of human nature to figure that out, in my opinion. As a leader, you need to see that, and you need to just communicate appreciation.
Yeah.
To others.
If you have a difficult time seeing that, sure, those tests might be helpful to you. But I think if you just talk to a person and get to know them and watch them, you'll figure those things out. It's the leaders who don't want to figure that out that don't, right? Because you can figure that out. You can say, I could help this employee by letting them work from home some days because they seem to be more productive when they're on their own. rather than a social, or vice versa, or I can help this employee by whatever it is. You can make little adjustments that make each employee happier and more productive.
Yep. So
they're not robots.
No, they're not. And they're not machines. They're not, we're all individuals. And honestly, we just want to live life and have a great time and enjoy ourselves. I read a study the other day, by 2030, depression is going to be the number one medical issue. Well, what if we can combat that in the workplace? At least to a point. That's the biggest number, because a lot of machines are taking over work environments. And there's a lot of automation that's going, and the people that are still wanting to do the work need to take care of them.
Human beings need to feel productive and needed.
And appreciated.
Right?
Yes.
That is a core need for us as human beings, and that's something that you can offer.
Absolutely.
To your employees. Right? People are much happier when they are helping someone else by being productive, whether that's doing their job, helping all the core workers around them, providing service in the community, whatever it is. If you're doing something is making an impact, you will be happier.
And there's a quote from a religious leader that says, as you help another person to the top of the hill, you'll find yourself there as well. As leaders, we need to do that for our employees. Because if you're at the top and you're keeping them at the bottom because you're not communicating, you're not helping, then it's just not a balanced work environment.
Mm-hmm. And we don't want anyone walking away from this book thinking it's all about leaders need to change. This is also about employees taking responsibility for their own lives and their own careers, and being an example of the change that they want to see. And if you feel unengaged at work, you need to take a moment and really ponder, maybe even start writing a list of why you're unengaged at your current job. And is that really the job that you need to be in?
Yeah.
And that might change. You may love your job for 15 years, and suddenly that job just doesn't do it for you anymore, and you need to make a change. There's nothing wrong with that. But you have that response. It's not your boss's responsibility to make you happy.
No.
Right? We're telling you, leaders, you can create an environment where people will be happy. But kind of like your example about Disneyland, if one bad thing happens during the day, people tend to see it as a bad day, but that was a decision. That's them focusing on the bad thing instead of all of the good things that happen that day.
Well, and adapting to every situation. I'm not saying just because you have a positive attitude, everything's going to work out. Trust me. I have a positive attitude. I love to look at people and do great things. Negative crap happens. But it's about your reaction to it. Because you can react to it. And another thing I found out is drama actually gives you dopamine as well. I was like, wow, really? So the people that are more dramatic and they want to do that gives them that dopamine dump as well as being positive.
And chasing a high.
Yeah. But the thing is through this, we had somebody do a negative post on us on Facebook and used all sorts of cuss words and everything. All we're trying to do is help people with mental stability within the workplace. And this dude went off. I just deleted it. Is that going to ruin my day? No. Just because somebody wants to go off on me trying to do something good, sorry, I'm not going to please everybody, but you have to learn to adapt to every situation and keep a positive mindset as much as you can, because we control our circumstances. We control our attitudes. We're the one that shifts our cars into drive, or our minds into drive, and move it forward. We are the ones that make that choice every day. We control our minds. If we let the outside forces control it, then they are winning. So just remember that. And that's a good segue into our next book that we're working on, is something to the effect of powering your future through your past. Building your personal engine that powers your future. So look forward to that. And that's more on an individual basis. Has a lot of great stuff in it, and I'm super excited. So be patient with that.
Awesome. So get your copy of Driving Engagement, and if you already have one or you've just listened to the podcast, would you please take a moment to go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or wherever you buy books and leave a review? That really helps us. It helps with the algorithm of getting this message out to more people, to help it show up in search functions. The more reviews, the more helpful it is. So we would really appreciate that. If you found anything useful, please share that with others. We would really appreciate it. So driving engagement, this is the end of season 1, but we'll be back with the season 2 as well. We'll talk more about driving your personal engine. So we hope you stay tuned, subscribe, hit the notification button so that you are notified when the next season drops.
Thank you.
Have a great one.